It's insane to think that I reviewed the Ayaneo Air Pro 5825U less than a year ago. And here I am today with a device with an identical form factor that scores 70% higher with regard to performance in 3D Mark. This is the Ayaneo Air 1S 7840U Retro Edition, and as the name implies, it comes equipped with AMD's flagship 7840U processor, along with 7080M graphics, Zen 3, 8 cores, 16-thread CPU, a 1080p AMOLED display at 60Hz, 4 SSD storage options, 2 memory options, 16 and 32 gigs. It also has Hall linear triggers and thumbsticks, and a 30 watt-hour battery, all coming in at 450 grams or 16 ounces with the following dimensions. To put that into better perspective, this is a substantially more powerful device than the Switch OLED that's only 10 grams heavier, and with the exception of thickness, it comes in at a much smaller footprint overall. Throwing the Steam Deck into the fray, you can see that the Air 1S is nearly 250 grams lighter, with the Steam Deck coming in at about 700 grams, and it's about 180 grams lighter than the ROG Ally, coming in at 630 grams. And as if that isn't lightweight and pocketable enough, Ayaneo was also offering the Air 1S Ultra Thin and Light Limited Edition, which has a minimal thickness of only 18 millimeters and a total weight of 405 grams, though the compromise is pretty steep in order to achieve such a small footprint, most notably the battery size, which is reduced from 38 watt-hours to 28. The Thin Edition also yields a lower TDP range from 5 to 18 watts versus 5 to 25 on the standard. Considering this and a few other variables, my personal opinion is that you're honestly better off going with the standard version over the Ultra Thin. Now, outside of a smaller form factor and weight, one of the biggest advantages that the Ayaneo Air lineup has over the majority of other handheld brands is the AMOLED display itself, because we really don't get enough handhelds these days with self-emissive OLED panel technology, unfortunately. But the Ayaneo Air 1S definitely delivers in that department in emphatic fashion. It's got a 96 Adobe RGB gamut and a resolution of 1920 by 1080p, giving it a noticeably sharper image than the 720p Switch OLED display. Deep true blacks and phenomenal color contrast are definitely among its strongest advantage when compared to other popular PC handhelds in its category. But the 5.5-inch screen size is still a tough pill to swallow for me. I didn't love it on the Air Pro, and I honestly don't love it here on the Air 1S. When it comes to Windows gaming handhelds, I feel that 7 to 8-inch screen size is the sweet spot, but 6 inches should really probably be the bare minimum, because when it comes to reading text and navigating menus and folders, it really starts to become a challenge at this size. And yes, you can and should use a dedicated monitor to set things up, but sometimes you're away from your desk when things decide to break. And trust me, you don't want to investigate a driver's issue on Windows using a 5.5-inch display. As I mentioned about the Air Pro model, I really would like to see an Air handheld that shrinks down these bezels a bit more to achieve a full 6 inches, and this wouldn't affect the form factor or the overall dimensions at all. I'd even go as far as to say that I wouldn't mind a slightly lower resolution panel, if need be, if these AMOLED 1080p displays are hard to come by, because when it comes to displays that are under 7 inches, I really don't think the top resolution is all that crucial. So the Air Pro officially launched late last year, and the Ayaneo 2 earlier this year with the original iSpace software, which is the backbone of the Ayaneo proprietary interface that pulls in your game libraries from external sources such as Steam, Epic Games, GOG, and Game Pass, among many others. The software is also responsible for controlling the quick menu overlay tool that's used to adjust settings on the fly, and it's used to transform the left thumbstick into a mouse pointer while the A button acts as a left mouse click. iSpace definitely had its share of bugs and limitations, but with the launch of the official iSpace 2 software, which ships with the Air 1S, not only has a lot of the kinks been ironed out, but iSpace 2 improves and expands upon iSpace 1 in virtually every single way. In fact, the quick menu for 2.0 has been improved to such an extent that you rarely ever need to venture into the full dedicated game launcher at all. So if you're someone that prefers to manage their library and launch games primarily in the Steam Big Picture UI, you're going to find that iSpace 2.0 is everything. From top to bottom, 2.0 gives you rapid access to performance tools, handheld options, controller settings, quick assist hotkeys, including a button that actually closes out games, and even gives you quick access to Windows system settings such as Device Manager and Control Panel. So far, my favorite feature for the 2.0 upgrade have to be the performance overlay tool that's reminiscent of the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, the ability to shut down the device directly from the UI, the all-new TDP slider that allows for micro fine-tunements of watts, and the customizable hotkeys that also reminds me a lot of the ROG Ally. However, to this day, there's still a serious bug with the iSpace 2 quick menu overlay, which is that when the overlay is up and you're navigating through various settings, those clicks will also be registered to the game that's running in the background. So as you can see in this example, as I navigate through the tabs, Laura is also switching in between weapons simultaneously. These quick menu controls really need to take precedence over anything else that may be running in the background, because having these controls shared can cause you to launch or quit a game by accident, or even cause you to get killed while you're trying to tweak your TDP output, for example. This is a bug that neither the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally Armory Crate suffer from. So this is by far my biggest ISpace 2.0 gripe. So at the top of the video, I mentioned that the Air 1S scored 75% higher than the Air Pro 5825U. So I thought we'd kick off this section taking a closer look at a couple of Time Spy scores. So at an 18-watt TDP where the Air Pro maxes out, it had a score of 1441 versus 2515 for the Air 1S. However, if we take a look at the Ayaneo 2 6800U, obviously the performance increase isn't quite as impressive, hovering around 10.5%. I ran the very same benchmark at 18 watts for the ROG Ally as well, multiple times, and it actually came out on top of the Air 1S for every run. As you can see here, 2644 for the Ally versus 2515 for the Air 1S. This was also the case at 20 watts, 2877 for the Ally versus 2633 for the Air 1S, and 2969 at 25 watts for the Ally versus 2815 for the Air 1S. I thought this was pretty interesting, though these scores definitely don't tell the whole story on a game-by-game basis, which is a great segue into game performance. For Cyberpunk 2077, I ran benchmarks for 5 different TDP levels within the thermal limits for the Ayaneo 1S, the Ayaneo 2, ROG Ally, and the Steam Deck. Now the Steam Deck obviously has the lowest TDP max level, but it was definitely an impressive 15 TDP showing indeed, surpassing the Ayaneo 2 with an average FPS of 32. Coming closely behind the 1S at 33 frames and the Asus ROG Ally at 34. However, with increasing TDP to 18 watts, the 1S blasted ahead of the pack with an average FPS of 55 versus 45 for the Ally and 27 for the 6800U. And from there out, 20 watts, 25, and even 30 for the ROG Ally and the Ayaneo 2, the 1S pulled in the highest overall average frames per second. Switching gears to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, at 15 watts, the deck achieved a higher average FPS than the Air Pro, the 6800U, and the 7840U 1S, coming only behind the ROG Ally, averaging 43 frames per second versus 45 for the Ally. However, at the 18-watt mark, in all subsequent levels, the ROG Ally rose to the top, even above the 1S 7840U, hitting an average FPS of 55 at 18 watts, 58 at 20 watts, and 63 at both 25 and 30 watts. So maxing out Turbo 30 didn't really yield any more frames, so it was pretty much diminishing returns at that point. Guardians of the Galaxy was a very similar story as with Tomb Raider, with the deck inching out everyone else at 15 watts but the ROG Ally, at 50 frames average for the deck versus 60 for the Ally. But interestingly enough for this title, the 6800U and the 1S 7840U were virtually neck and neck the entire time, and the 6800U even surpassed the 1S at one point in time at 25 watt TDP. Unlike Shadow of the Tomb Raider, however, I continued to see a climb in frames for the ROG Ally all the way up to Turbo 30, be it extraordinarily marginal between 25 and 30, about a 2-frame average increase. So at that point, you're probably better off rolling back the TDP to save on battery. So although the Ayaneo 1S 7840U is sharing the very same APU as a lot of new Windows 11 handheld PCs either on the market or coming soon, such as the One X Player 2, the AOK Zoe, or the Ayaneo Gwyn, it's clearly not going up against a lot of these larger, higher wattage capable handhelds. With a smaller form factor, smaller fan, and much more condensed components, this is honestly not a device that I enjoy cranked up to 25 watts while playing the latest AAA games such as Starfield, because there just isn't a ton of space between the center of the console that really heats up and the controller grips. During heavy load on the 1S, I enjoy every bit of the unrivaled inky AMOLED display and the feathery light weight as compared to its counterparts, but it's almost always the case that my sweaty hands would disagree. Hence, finding a sweet spot between 15 and 18 watts, in my experience, has been the most desirable. But even still, I prefer to use this device and others like it in spurts, 30 minutes to 1 hour max, due to the less ideal ergonomics for my larger size hands. Obviously, depending on the size of your hands, your mileage will vary. But that's really how I see these smaller form factor Air devices in broad terms. An extraordinarily mobile but brief gaming sessions machine that is much easier to transport from point A to point B than the deck or the Ally. The difference here though between something like the 5825U and the 7840U is that you're not simply reduced to indies, lightweight ROMs, or super dated AAA titles like Arkham City. And when you also consider the Switch-like docking capability, you start to really appreciate what a device like the Ayaneo 1S is striving for. Still, I don't think that a 6-inch display at the starting MSRP is too much to ask for, as well as better improved haptics, which are still very buzzy and don't really add very much to the user experience. These speakers on the 1S sound marginally better than the Air Pro, but they still can't hold a candle to the likes of the Steam Deck and especially the ROG Ally, which I'm working on a dedicated review for right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss it. Before you jet, I really want to know what gaming handheld you're gaming on right now. Is it the Switch, the Deck, the Ally, Ayaneo, or otherwise? Or maybe you're just taking it easy right now, patiently waiting on that Switch 2, PlayStation Portal, or the Lenovo Legion Go. That's clearly taking a page out of Nintendo's book. I'm really excited for this unit as well, with the planned release sometime in October, but I definitely have some concerns that I'll raise during the ROG Ally review. As always, thanks for watching and supporting the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.